You know, there's a saying that learning never ends. And in my life, I found that to be true. Although I've been studying nutrition and exercise science in all aspects, bodybuilding, you name it, and science in general, for over 6 decades, I continue to learn new things and find new substances. This is especially true in the preparation of my Applied Metabolics digital publication. In the course of researching the various articles and features that I write for my Applied Metabolics, I come across information that I've never knew before. This is stuff that's never seen on the internet. It's not in videos. It's not in blogs. It's stuff that you have to actually read the scientific literature to find. Unfortunately, a lot of that scientific literature is very heavy in jargon, scientific jargon. And if you don't have a kind of semi-scientific background, it's like reading Japanese. It's not going to get through. Still, despite that, I still find occasional substances that I find intriguing. The other day I did a video on this channel about a type of seaweed that, although there was no human studies yet published, it shows intriguing possible health benefits which are directly applicable excuse me, to anyone involved in bodybuilding and fitness. Today, I'm going to talk about another substance that I came across, which I frankly also have never heard of, but it sounds very interesting to me. And again, I'm going to right off the bat state that most of the studies or the information I'm about to present to you is based on animal and what they call in vitro or test tube or isolated cell studies. There's not a lot of human data on this stuff. For one reason for that, you might be wondering why, is because these things are natural substances. They can't be patented. They can't be sold as drugs. So the entire focus of pharmaceutical or drug companies, or what they call big pharma, is to make a profit. I mean, contrary to what they try and make people believe, they don't give a crap about anyone's health. The same with health insurance companies. They're 100% interested in profit. They don't care about whether you live or die. They just want your money. And, if they can't patent a natural substance and make money on it, they're not going to put in the money to research it and prove its efficacy. So that's why you don't see a lot of the substance I'm about to speak about, and the one I spoke about yesterday. You don't see a lot of human studies because nobody wants to pay for them. It's that simple. I mean, even a mediocre study could cost hundreds of thousands of dollars, and they don't want to invest in it because there's no profit to be made. But that doesn't mean that the substance is worthless. And this is where, by the way, just to throw in a little rant here, this is a major problem I have with some of the other videos I've seen, particularly videos made by self-styled experts, including a couple of medical doctors. They make regular videos, and they often, when they're talking about supplements, they'll say, well, there's no human evidence to show that this thing works, so don't bother using it. They don't take into consideration the fact that the reason there's no human evidence is because no drug company or educational institution has opted to put in the money to sponsor a study. That does not mean the substance isn't good. The way I look at these substances myself is I look at the mechanisms involved, and I kind of ascertain whether these mechanisms also exist in the human body. And if they do, in other words, if an animal study shows that a particular substance, let's say, increases muscle mass or something like that, then there's a possibility that it could do it in humans. It may not work in humans. 50% of animal studies do not pan out in human follow-up studies, but many of them do. So with all those caveats in mind, I'm going to discuss this other substance that I came across. It's called Delphinidin. You probably never heard of it. I certainly didn't. What is Delphinidin? It's a purple-colored flavonoid. Flavonoids are usually found in plant foods. They're not found in, unfortunately, some of the higher protein foods like meat, fish, and eggs. They're almost exclusively in plant foods. They have a lot of health benefits. One of the problems with flavonoids, flavones, and those things in general is what they call low bioavailability, meaning that when you ingest them orally, very small percentage, including some of the more famous ones like resveratrol, only a small percentage. Resveratrol, only 14% of an oral dose is actually absorbed. The rest of it's degraded in the liver. Not degraded, but basically broken down, you could say, in the liver. And that's the problem with some of these flavonoids and natural plant compounds. There's low absorption, but enough can get through to do things. And this has been shown in studies. And furthermore, they now know that the intestinal microbiome, which is the population of bacteria, fungi, and other organisms that reside in the large intestine or colon, they take these plant compounds and they're able to convert them into forms that actually can be used by the body. They're kind of like sent back in the body where they are used. And this changed the whole scientific look at these substances, because previously they thought, oh, this stuff just passes right through you, it doesn't do anything. Now they know that a lot of these things interact with the intestinal microbiome, which activates them. Delphinidin is probably in that category, but as I said, it's a kind of deep purple colored flavonoid, and among other things, it provides the color. If you've ever drank a wine called Cabernet Sauvignon, the purple color of that wine comes from delphinidin. It's classified as an anthocyanidin. Anthocyanidins are among the most potent natural oxidants known. There's not to be confused with anthocyanins. Anthocyanidins are a little bit different than anthocyanins, but they're very close, basically very close in function, let's say. Delphinidin is found in naturally, you can get it in food. Berries, colored berries are the best sources of delphinidin. Examples are blueberries and bilberries. But the richest natural source by far is what they call Mackay berries. Now, if you go online, you'll see there's a lot of Mackay berry supplements. And the active component in these Mackay berry supplements is delphinidin. Now, Mackay berries are indigenous to Chile and Argentina, and this particular berry is so rich in antioxidant compounds, it contains more than 3 times more polyphenol, which are antioxidant compounds, than all other berries. It's very rich in antioxidant, very healthy. Among the health benefits offered by delphinidin itself are an increase in a process called autophagy. What is autophagy? Autophagy is basically you could say it's the garbage waste system of the body. It's the way the body breaks down old, worn-out cells and gets rid of them and makes way for development of new cells. You got to get rid of these beat-up old cells. They kind of get in the way. I'm obviously oversimplifying the process, but you might consider how important autophagy is when you realize that probably the primary benefit of fasting, including intermittent fasting, which is so popular these days, is not calorie reduction. Intermittent fasting really doesn't produce any greater fat loss than just lowering your daily calorie intake or carbohydrate intake. The big benefit offered by fasting is an increase in autophagy. It allows the body basically to reset itself, including the immune system. So it helps to prevent diseases like cancer. It helps your heart. It helps another thing. But all of this basically relates back to autophagy. And delphinidin increases autophagy independently. You don't even have to fast. In relation to cancer, delphinidin is known to stabilize DNA. DNA is the cellular blueprint required for cell replication, and also when DNA gets mutated, could be from environmental chemicals or just various, I don't want to get into all the things that can cause DNA mutations, but suffice to say that DNA mutations are probably the cornerstone of tumor formation or cancer. DNA also, as people age, the replication of DNA gets decreased, the quality gets decreased, and this plays a major role in the aging process. So if you could keep your DNA going strong, you'll probably avoid diseases like cancer, and also you'll slow down the aging process. And this delphinidin stabilizes DNA. Naturally, because of its anthocyanin content, delphinidin is a very potent antioxidant. It's actually more potent than vitamin C, which is probably the most famous antioxidant. And one of the reasons why delphinidin is so potent as an antioxidant is that it activates the major promoter of antioxidant activity in the body, a substance called it's called NRF-2. And this stuff, NRF2, activates all the endogenous antioxidant enzymes in the body, such as glutathione, catalase, and others. So because delphinidin activates NRF2, which, by the way, is also activated by certain vegetables, such as broccoli and cruciferous vegetables. That's one of the reasons why those vegetables are protective. It also increases the general antioxidant response of the body, which is far more potent than any dietary antioxidant you can ingest, including vitamin C and E. Delphinidin also activates what they call complex 1 in something called the electron transport chain in mitochondria. Now, this is important because the electron transport chain is what produces ATP, which is adenosine triphosphate, with the immediate cellular energy source. So the delphinidin is important, let's say, for energy production, and because of its antioxidant activity, it helps protect mitochondria, which are very prone to oxidation reactions because of all the free radicals or byproducts of oxygen metabolism that are released in the course of producing ATP. I don't want to get into that, it's too complex. But anyway, animal studies show that delphinidin also activates substances called sirtuins. Now, there's 7 major sirtuins in the human body. Some scientists, I don't want to mention names because I don't like a lot of these guys. They're self-promoters. I think a lot of them are full of crap. But if you look on YouTube, you'll see that a lot of these guys are pushing sirtuins as a anti-aging substance. Sirtuins are basically cell protectors. So they'll protect against DNA mutations. They'll keep DNA stable, and among other and those type of things. Delphinidin activates sirtuins, and it also activates something called AMPK. AMPK is a energy sensor in muscle and cells. It can tell when the muscles, for example, are low in glycogen. It's activated when ATP, when your muscles get low in ATP, it sends a signal that activates AMPK. Once AMPK is activated, your muscles start to burn more fat. AMPK also acts in opposition to the mammalian target of rapamycin, or mTOR. mTOR is the major promoter of protein synthesis, which of course is important for muscle growth. But as you age, you get an imbalance, you get an overactivity of mTOR in relation to AMPK, and this causes accelerated aging, cardiovascular disease, and cancer. The one drug that is being pushed today that supposedly helps to slow the rate of aging, it's called rapamycin. And rapamycin works by inhibiting mTOR. But you can also get the same effect without taking rapamycin, which is a immunosuppressant drug. It's actually given to kidney transplant recipients to prevent rejection of the organ. It completely suppresses the immune system. So in this age of COVID, I myself, rapamycin has some very interesting properties, and it has been shown in many animal experiments that seems to increase longevity, but to me, it's a little iffy. I don't like messing around with it. I'd rather, you go the route of increasing AMPK, which will automatically decrease mTOR activity. That's a better and more natural way to deal with it. Animal studies show that delphinidin helps to protect bone mass by blunting the effect of cells called osteoclasts, which degrade bone, and also it promotes activity of osteoblasts, which build bone. So delphinidin is a very important, well, not very important, but it's involved in helping to protect bone mass, which is, of course, more of a consideration as you get older. The bone thinning disease osteoporosis, which is more common in women, begins at age 30 and usually doesn't show up. You don't see the real symptoms of it until about age 50. It's related to bone fractures, hip fractures, and besides, osteoporosis is also caused by a lack of sufficient estrogen in women and men, and also a lack of sufficient calcium and magnesium, and also a lack of weight-bearing exercise, like as exemplified by resistance training. The thing that intrigued me about delphinidin, and in fact, this is what caused me to I ordered a supplement. They have a standardized supplement that's derived from Mackay berries. I honestly don't even remember the name of it. It's not sold on Amazon. I had to get it through a separate site on the internet. This particular supplement, it contains 25% delphinidin, and the reason I ordered it is because of a human study. This was a human study. This is an exception to the rule. A study of 36 human subjects who had pre-diabetes. Another word for pre-diabetes is, or another word for pre-diabetes is insulin insensitivity, and it's considered the precursor for full-blown type 2 diabetes. But having pre-diabetes, which I have right now myself, I have a huge genetic strain of diabetes on both sides of my family. Both my grandfathers had it, and my father died from the complications of diabetes. It's almost inevitable that I would get some sort of glucose intolerance as I aged. And I do admit that a lot of it's related to weight, but I do everything I can to prevent diabetes, and I don't have diabetes because of what I do. But getting back to this study, a study of 36 human subjects with pre-diabetes with an age range of 19 to 50 showed that when provided with 200 milligrams of delphinidin prior to the meal, it lowered the post-meal glucose levels 60 and 90 minutes after the subjects consumed a rice meal. Now, this particularly attracted me because I stopped eating rice years ago because I thought it raised when I started to have a rise with glucose as I got older. I tried to cut down carbohydrates that would be absorbed fairly rapidly, and I always used to have my chicken or my turkey with rice. I thought it was a great combination. It was very tasty to me, but I cut it out because of the rice being so high. It's really loaded with carbohydrates, so I cut it out. And unfortunately, a couple of years ago, I started eating skinless chicken. And I mean, when I say chicken, I mean plain skinless chicken, nothing on it. And after a while, it was disgusting. It was like eating paper. I would eat 2 bites of it and give the rest to my dog. And I thought about how I used to eat this skinless chicken. I used to cut it up and put it on top of rice, brown rice, put a little bit of soy sauce on for flavoring, and it was delicious. I never had any problem eating it. So I went back to combining my skinless chicken, and it's broiled chicken, with rice, brown rice. And again, I added a little bit of soy sauce. Sure enough, the problem was solved. I now had no problem consuming the chicken. I always left some over for my dog, though, because he liked chicken. But unfortunately, I check my blood glucose, my resting blood glucose, as soon as I get up. And as soon as I started eating the rice, sure enough, my blood glucose, and remember, I exercise, I take a number of supplements that help control glucose. But as soon as I started eating the rice, I started getting higher blood glucose levels. Again, it's probably because of some genetic factor. But when I came across this study that actually looked at a rice meal, I immediately ordered the Delphinidin from a company online. I haven't gotten it yet. I can't tell you whether it works. Maybe in a future video, because there's a lot of people out there who have insulin insensitivity. A lot of them don't even know it. You don't have to be fat. Anyone could get it. There's a genetic component, and anything that'll help control or basically delete insulin insensitivity is going to go a long way towards preventing diabetes and a lot of other diseases. Now, related to exercise, they have a mouse study that showed that providing the mice with Delphinidin prevented disuse-related muscular atrophy. In other words, it prevented muscles from breaking down when the mice were made inactive. This, of course, relates to a lot of humans. I don't know if this particular study would translate into human physiology, but if it does, Delphinidin would be really useful to help, for example, older people who get a disease called sarcopenia or loss of lean mass as they get older. Or it can involve anyone who's involved in, say, weight training or resistance exercise who decides to take a layoff and is worried about losing muscle. Perhaps if they take Delphinidin, it'll minimize the loss of muscle. So it has a bodybuilding application too. As far as the aging effect in the skin, Delphinidin inhibits enzymes that are known to break down the collagen in the skin, called matrix metalloproteases, that break down collagen and create wrinkles and lines. And Delphinidin inhibits that particular enzyme, so it'll help to keep the collagen a little bit thicker and create a more youthful. And it also helps prevent damage from UV rays from the sun that are the major cause of facial skin aging. Now, from a cardiovascular perspective, Delphinidin increases nitric oxide in the blood vessels and helps to prevent the formation of internal blood clots associated with heart attacks and strokes. And by increasing nitric oxide, it will also help to lower blood pressure. Delphinidin, from the point of view of cancer, Delphinidin, and this involves, full disclosure, the studies that looked at the effect of Delphinidin on cancer prevention all involved isolated tumor cells. They did not involve animals or a human body. They took various types of tumor cells ranging from breast cancer to leukemia to colon cancer, and they treated these cells with Delphinidin, and Delphinidin blocked the tumor. It basically destroyed the tumor or prevented it from possibly metastasizing or spreading. So again, I'm just going to say that it's a very interesting compound. I sent away for it myself based on that blood glucose study. The fact that the meal that was given was rice was very intriguing, because I have a problem with rice. Although I eat a ton of fiber that's supposed to slow down the uptake of glucose or carbohydrates, it doesn't seem to affect the rice. I still get, even when I work out, if I do weight training and aerobics, I do notice lower blood glucose level, even if I consume the rice and chicken. If I do only weight training, it doesn't seem to have that much of an effect on glucose. And this is what the studies have shown. If you want glucose control, you have to do weight resistance training and aerobics. That's the best combination. And a lot of it has to do with what they call glucose transport proteins. Not going to get into it now. So I'm going to give Delphinidin a try. It's again an extract from acai berries. It's not that expensive. I believe it cost me about $22. I'm going to give it a couple of weeks, and I'm going to give it a fair chance. I'm going to see if I take it before my rice meal. If it does lower my blood glucose, I'll probably continue to use it because it'll be worthwhile. If I don't see any effect, I'm not going to use it anymore. And the main reason, it's not that the stuff is bad. It's the fact that, again, there's not a lot of human evidence. There's a ton of animal evidence, but it certainly can't hurt you. It's non-toxic. So that's about it for Delphinidin. And if you want more information on nutrition, exercise science, anti-aging research that you can use today, effective fat loss techniques, ergogenic aids, hormonal therapy, supplement science, which supplements work, which ones don't. I'm not involved with any supplement company, unlike the majority of people that make YouTube videos. I'm sure you've seen a lot of these YouTube videos where they'll be giving you, it seems like an informative video, and then you get to the middle of the end, and suddenly they're pushing a particular company's, whether it's an anti-aging supplement or some other type of supplement. These are shills. These are people that are paid by those companies to push their products. To me, that creates a credibility gap. I can't trust somebody recommending a supplement that's basically where they're being paid to push. In other words, some people will espouse or advocate the use of any supplement, no matter how crappy it is, if they get paid for it. This has happened a lot over the years. So you got to be careful of those kind of people. I am not involved with any supplement company. So whatever I write about supplements, you can be assured is 100% truth, as is the entire content of Applied Metabolics. If you are looking for the 100% truth with no BS, no crap, and no nonsense, subscribe to Applied Metabolics. www.appliedmetabolics.com. I guarantee no matter what your level of education, you will learn something in every issue. It's anywhere from 30 to 50 pages every month. Comes out on the first of the month. It's got no ads, just pure information. You won't find this stuff on blogs or in videos. Nobody approaches the depth of content of Applied Metabolics. As a matter of fact, I might as well warn people, if you have a very short attention span, where these days it seems like the average person's attention span is no more than 30 seconds, you might have a little bit of a problem with Applied Metabolics, because it's not that it's technical. Anything I write for in a magazine style where anybody with a 6th grade education can easily understand. And if I have to use technical terms, I fully explain it. So you won't have to reach for a medical dictionary, but it's very in-depth. In other words, I throw in the whole kitchen sink. Anything I write about, you will know completely about. I don't leave anything out. I present all sides, both good and bad. And so it's very in-depth. And if you don't like to read, there are free programs offered by Microsoft where it'll read the article for you. So you don't even have to be literate to read Applied, or to get the benefit of Applied Metabolics, I should say. In fact, I don't want to go off on a rant, but I think a lack of reading causes a lot of the problems we're seeing today. I'm not going to get specific, but things are very bad today. A lot of it has to do with ignorance related to a lack of reading and a dependence on poor sources of information, such as videos and blogs and garbage on the internet, which gives a lot of bad information. And one of the antidotes to that is my Applied Metabolics. Subscribe today, www.appliedmetabolics.com. When you subscribe, send me an email and I'll send you an invitation to join my private Applied Metabolics Facebook page, where each day I post new information on medicine, nutrition, and exercise science. I have an email portal on my Applied Metabolics webpage where current subscribers only can send me short questions about anything they might have read in Applied Metabolics or anything that comes to mind related to nutrition or exercise. And as an appreciation of their subscription, I will answer the questions. I don't provide steroid regimes, which people ask me for. I won't look at steroid regimes and tell you whether they're good or bad. That's ridiculous. That anyone who does that's a jerk. And the other thing is, I'm not going to give out full workout routines and full diets. I'm sorry, but you're not going to get all that for the price, the relatively extremely inexpensive price of Applied Metabolics. All that stuff would cost extra. And as far as the steroid stuff, I'm not going to talk about that at all, because I don't know who I'm dealing with, and I'm not going to take the responsibility of playing a part in somebody's premature death. But anyway, so that's about it. So subscribe today. If you want to have the best friend you'll ever have, go to your local shelter, adopt a dog. My dog Bruno, who, those of you who've watched my videos for a while, you might have seen Bruno, and I mentioned in a previous video, Bruno passed away on March 12th. He was 23 years old. He was healthy almost all those years. He lost his sight about a year before he died, lost his hearing about around the same time. But other than that, he seemed to be doing pretty well. and he never didn't suffer. He died from the complications of a kidney infection. And, he was probably, I hate to use the word old age, but I'm sure that he just didn't have the resources to survive that infection, even though I did everything I could to help him. And I'll tell you, I dearly miss Bruno. I mean, I had him for 20 years, and I can't even put into words how sad it is not to have him around me or in my presence. He was a very comforting being for me. And so my point here in this extended obituary about Bruno is he did a lot for me. I am going to get another dog. I can't even see living without a dog. They're the best friends you can ever have. They're the most loyal. I mean, everyone can turn against you. Wives can divorce you. Girlfriends could cheat on you, whatever. The dog will always be loyal. They're the most loyal creatures on earth. And cats are good too. I'm not going to say anything bad about cats, but dogs are man's best friend. I'll just say that. So do yourself a favor. Go to your local shelter, adopt a dog, and if you have a place in your heart for senior dogs that are a little bit older, try and adopt them rather than puppies, because senior dogs, from my experience, are the most loving dogs of all. They know you saved them, and they appreciate it. Trust me, I've seen it. Take care. Thank you for listening.